Con lên đâu này?
Châu lán gì kiến lắc châu
Đi
luôn.
đây làm cô. Hay gì lạnh là mình làm cô.
Imagine waking up to the sound of rushing water, only to discover that a reservoir upstream has partially given way after one of the most intense rainstorms in recent memory. That is the reality facing thousands of residents in southern China, where the remnants of Typhoon Maysak unleashed extraordinary rainfall across Guangxi Zhuang Autonomous Region. The relentless downpours overwhelmed rivers, pushed reservoirs beyond their limits, and triggered a partial breach at Liulan Reservoir in Hengzhou, sending powerful torrents of muddy water downstream. Authorities have now raised the highest flood emergency response level in Nanning, while rescue teams continue evacuating residents from flooded communities. Although officials say no casualties have been reported from the reservoir breach itself, the disaster is still unfolding, and the full extent of the damage is not yet known. Here's what happened. Typhoon Maysak first made landfall over Hainan before moving toward the Vietnam border. Although the storm weakened after landfall, it retained enormous amounts of tropical moisture from the South China Sea. Instead of bringing destructive winds alone, Maysak evolved into a dangerous rain-producing system. As the storm slowed over southern China, wave after wave of intense rain bands stalled over Guangxi. Meteorologists described the system as releasing nearly all of the moisture it had accumulated over warm ocean waters. The result was astonishing rainfall. Some weather stations recorded more than 600 millimeters of rain within just 24 hours, while localized reports suggested even higher totals in parts of the region. Such rainfall is exceptional, even in an area accustomed to typhoons. As rivers rapidly filled, pressure increased across the region's extensive network of reservoirs. One of the most critical locations was Liulan Reservoir in Hengzhou, a medium-sized reservoir that supplies irrigation water to a vast agricultural area serving hundreds of thousands of residents. During the early hours of July 6th, reservoir levels continued climbing despite emergency discharge efforts. Around 2:30 in the morning, the water level reached critical elevation. By approximately 6 a.m., operators had fully opened the spillway gates in an effort to release as much water as possible. But the incoming floodwaters continued arriving faster than they could safely be discharged. Several hours later, conditions deteriorated dramatically. Around late morning, sections of the reservoir embankment began to fail after overtopping erosion weakened the dam structure. Officials later confirmed that two portions of the embankment, totaling roughly 50 meters, had partially collapsed. Videos released by Chinese state media captured the frightening moment. Massive brown torrents surged through the breach, carrying enormous volumes of water downstream toward nearby villages, roads, and farmland. The images quickly spread across Chinese social media, with many early users describing the incident as a complete dam collapse. Authorities later clarified that the structure experienced a partial breach rather than a total failure, but emphasized that the emergency remained extremely serious.
不得了，不得了。
Within minutes, emergency alerts intensified. Nanning upgraded its flood emergency response to level 1, the highest level available under China's flood control system. The central government also elevated the regional emergency response, while deploying additional rescue resources into Guangxi. Thousands of emergency personnel, firefighters, water management specialists, and rescue teams were mobilized. Boats were dispatched into flooded communities. Large unmanned aerial vehicles were deployed to restore emergency communications and help coordinate rescue operations where conventional networks had been disrupted. Emergency shelters were opened, while relief supplies, including tents and camp beds, were rushed into affected areas. The human impact has been significant. Authorities estimate that tens of thousands of people have already been evacuated across the Nanning region. More than 300 residents living near Liulan Reservoir itself were safely moved before floodwaters surged through the damaged embankment. Drone footage released throughout the day revealed villages surrounded by muddy floodwater. Roads disappeared beneath rapidly rising currents. Large areas of farmland became submerged. Some neighborhoods experienced power outages as floodwaters swept across infrastructure. Rescue crews have been using boats to reach stranded residents, while emergency workers continue searching flooded communities to ensure no one has been left behind. Fortunately, officials have reported no confirmed injuries or deaths directly resulting from the Liulan Reservoir breach as of the latest updates. That outcome appears to reflect the speed of emergency evacuations and the rapid deployment of rescue resources before the worst flooding arrived. But why did this happen? Hydrologists point primarily to overtopping. Reservoirs are designed with spillways to safely release excess water. However, when rainfall becomes extreme enough, inflows can exceed discharge capacity. Water then begins flowing over parts of the embankment not designed for continuous overflow. Once that happens, fast-moving water can erode soil and protective layers on the downstream side of the dam. If erosion accelerates, portions of the embankment may eventually collapse, creating a breach like the one seen at Liulan Reservoir. Officials have indicated that overtopping erosion is the leading explanation, although engineers will conduct a full investigation once conditions stabilize. This disaster also highlights a broader concern. Across many parts of Asia, weakening tropical cyclones are increasingly producing devastating rainfall far inland after landfall. Instead of wind causing the greatest damage, prolonged extreme precipitation is becoming the primary hazard. Scientists continue studying how warmer ocean temperatures and a changing climate may contribute to heavier rainfall events, although no single disaster can be attributed to climate change alone. For Guangxi, however, the immediate priority remains saving lives. Additional heavy rainfall is still forecast across parts of southern China, raising concerns that already swollen rivers and reservoirs could face renewed pressure in the coming days. Emergency crews remain on high alert as evacuations continue and engineers monitor other reservoirs throughout the region. For now, this disaster serves as another reminder that the greatest danger from a tropical cyclone often comes long after the strongest winds have faded. As floodwaters continue moving downstream and recovery efforts begin, Investigators will seek answers about exactly how the reservoir failed, how much damage has been inflicted, and what lessons can be learned to better protect vulnerable communities before the next extreme weather event arrives. We'll continue following this developing story and provide updates as new, verified information becomes available. If you found this report informative, consider subscribing for factual, in-depth coverage of major natural disasters and extreme weather events from around the world.